Hey everybody, it's Glenn Gerhauser here from Church on the Park and Holy Fire Ministry Training School. And today I want to talk to you about how to be a good leader. How can you be a good leader? Now, before you just throw this aside or scroll past it, I want to say that all of us who have been saved by Jesus, all of us are called to be leaders. Why? Because the Father wants to make us like his son Jesus, and Jesus was the greatest of all leaders. So we all have that call within us, that DNA within us to be leaders. But here's the thing, many people do not know what it means to be a leader in God's eyes. Their idea of leadership comes from what they see in the world, on TV, politicians, men who are strong, who are loud, who dictate things, who command. But this is not being a leader in God's eyes. Let me read to you what Jesus said when the two disciples, the two sons of Zebedee, were fighting with one another. Jesus called them together. They were fighting about what position they would have. And Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you." So let me pause right there. Here, Jesus is defining leadership, and he's saying it's not what you see the Gentiles do. In other words, it's not what you see the people in the world doing. He says that it's not lording it over people. So it's not controlling people, lording it over people. Neither is it exercising authority over them. So he says to them, it's not that. So leadership is different in God's eyes than in what most people think leadership is. Here's what Jesus then says. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. A good leader is a great servant, and we can all do that through God's grace and power. A good leader is a great servant. They are an example to people. A good leader is not someone who's great at managing, though that gift is wonderful, or is flamboyant and tells somebody, you do this, you do that, you do the other thing. No, 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 no. It's a servant. It's being a servant. And here, Jesus is telling us he wants us to have that servant heart, to be servants, that the first must be your servant, and that here's the great example that he left. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. I believe today there's something grieving the Father's heart. Many people are seeking, Christians who know better, are seeking to be served rather than serve. And they're going from place to place and church to church looking for a great consumer experience. In other words, what can you do to serve me? When our attitude should be totally different. It should be, I have come to serve. What can I do to serve? What can I do to help? We are first and foremost meant to serve God and then serve one another. And on Sunday, I showed two great examples of this. One with Deborah, when everything was broken down during that time. And Deborah, let me read to you the verse here. Deborah said, I arose. When everybody stopped and ceased and everything was broken down, I arose. It says here, the peasantry ceased. They ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose. Until I arose, the mother in Israel. Judges 5:7. She looked around. The chief warrior wasn't arising. And everything was in a state of chaos. It's like today. The Israelites at that time were going through 20 years of oppression by the Canaanites. So they were continually being oppressed. No one was doing anything about it. And we live in a time where it's a dark time. We're in a crisis. It's time for God's leaders to arise. Once Deborah arose, restoration began to happen. She says, until I arose. And once she arose, the others arose too. It caused that chain reaction. And soon Israel overthrew the oppressive power that was on it, the Canaanites. And they went into a time of freedom. Well, if there's an hour that we need God's leaders to arise, it's now. And you don't have to be loud. You don't have to be proud. Better not be these things. A leader is a servant, an example. They're not ones who are trying to dictate, rather they're demonstrating. They're examples. And Nehemiah was one of those examples too. The walls were broken down. And then he arose and he caused great restoration in Israel. Today, God is calling for his leaders to arise. And these leaders can be children. Little children could arise. It's women and men, and especially the women God is calling to arise. If you see the men are doing nothing, women, you arise. Don't look to other people. Leaders don't look to follow the crowd. They don't wait till others join them. Leaders follow Jesus. That's God's leaders. They follow Jesus. And in following Jesus, the other people then join them in following Jesus. But leaders are not looking to follow the crowd. They're looking to follow Jesus. So let me pray for you today. Father, I want to thank you for everyone listening to this. Cause the Spirit of God to rise up within them. Let them be your servants, and let them be that example of what a leader is, a servant. Stir their hearts today in your precious name. Amen. God bless you. Hope you have a wonderful day.